An analysis of the opening scenes from Goodnight Mister Tom by Michelle Magorian. This brilliant book was first published in 1981 and focuses on the life of an evacuee called William Beach, who lives in London but had to be evacuated due to the bombing raids. The story begins in the village of Little Weirwold in Devon on the 3rd of September 1939. The villagers are making their way to the local church to listen to a radio broadcast by the Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, who is about to announce that Britain is now at war with Germany. This is Tom Oakley, a reclusive widower in his 60s. He is avoided by the community and vice versa.
Scenes? Wait until the proof is nearly dead right.
Sorry about that.
This is London. You will now hear a statement by the Prime Minister.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
So at this point in the story, we can see the anxious looks on the faces of the villagers. World War I was only 21 years in the past, and most of these people will have their own memories of what a horrific ordeal it was for our country. The gentleman in the Royal Air Force uniform is obviously quite worried at this point, and we can see him turn to his wife with an anxious look, as he knows he's probably going to be directly involved in the war.
Give them an inch, they take a yard.
Excuse me. Oh, Mr. Oakley. I thought I spotted you sitting at the back there. Only, you've heard that our choir master, Walter Wingate, has just been called up.
No.
Which, as you can imagine, does rather present us with a bit of a problem. Only I have it on good authority that you're something of a musician yourself.
I used to play the organ a bit, if that's what you mean. Doesn't mean I know anything about choirs, or would want to.
We all have to do our bit, you know. It's your duty.
When I need you to tell me what my duty is, Mrs. Ford, I'll let you know.
At least tell me you'll think about it, Mr. Oakley.
I'll think about it.
If we use our inference at this point and think about this lady's expression as she's looking at Mr. Tom, it may give us a clue as to what she knows about him that will become apparent later in the book. If we use empathy, how must these children be feeling? They've been taken away from their homes. They know the country they live in is now at war, and they have to go and live with a group of strangers they've never met before. Mrs. Ford, who we met earlier in this clip, is the billeting officer for the village. This means that she is responsible for making sure that any evacuees that arrive here are placed appropriately with families and people who can take care of them. So the children have arrived in Little Weirwold, and they're standing on the station waiting for the billeting officer to collect them. They will have an identity tag around their necks, a bag with potentially a gas mask, and some very basic clothing and personal items. So here we can see Mrs. Ford, the village's billeting officer, consider Mr. Oakley as a potential guardian for one of the evacuees. However, she very quickly changes her mind and moves on. Here we can see a slight look of surprise in Mr. Oakley's expression as he opens the door. Who could it be?
Well,
You realise I am the billeting officer for this area.
what's that to do with me?
His name is William Beach, and his mother says she'll only let him be evacuated if he's put with someone who's either religious or lives near a church. And the Home Office says it is obligatory to take one. So I'm sorry, Mr. Oakley, but he just has to go somewhere.
Obligatory means something has to be done, and it can be reinforced by law or by other means. Another point here is how the billeting officer, Mrs. Ford, refers to William Beach as one, which is a very impersonal term. So what is he thinking, stood there looking at Mr. Oakley, wondering what's going to happen next?
You'd best come in then. Come on.